the heart of this nation, under skies so blue,
there's a spirit that's stirring, values strong and true.
from the mountains to the prairies, from the cities to the sea, we stand for liberty, for faith and family. We're diving deep into the heart of what we believe.
Okay, so you're here because everyone wants to get past the headlines, right? You want to actually get down to what's really going on in our pretty crazy world. And today we're going deep on this story that's been causing a real stir.
Yeah, it's about these two asylum seekers recently deported to a high-security prison in El Salvador.
A prison with quite a reputation, too.
Exactly. It's a situation that's raised a ton of questions, especially because there are these allegations that the two men involved, one's a soccer player and the other's a makeup artist, were wrongly pegged as members of this gang, the Aragua gang, just based on their tattoos and what they were doing on social media.
Which, yeah, that's kind of wild to think about that being the main evidence.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we're looking at two articles, one from American Wire News and the other from townhall.com, to see how different outlets are covering this story.
So basically, what we're trying to do here is really dig into all the info we've got, look at it from all sides, and hopefully get a much clearer picture of what's actually going down and why should people even care,
Exactly.
So first up, we've got José Reyes Barrios. He's the Venezuelan soccer player.
Yep, that's the one. And I think it's super important to get why he even left Venezuela to begin with.
Right, what's the backstory here?
Yeah, so reports say Barrios was a pretty vocal critic of President Maduro's government. This led to him being detained, and there are even claims he was tortured back in early 2024.
Wow. So this isn't just someone looking for a better life economically. He's saying he was running from some seriously bad stuff.
Exactly. He was fearing for his safety.
And then there's the whole thing about when and how he got to the U.S.
Right.
The Town Hall article mentions he supposedly entered legally in September 2024 using that CBP-1 app, which, for anyone who doesn't know, that's the app people use to set up those asylum interviews at official border crossings.
Right.
So that kind of contradicts what DHS initially said, that he was here illegally.
Yeah, that's a major inconsistency right there. Something doesn't add up. And then we get to this big controversy, the tattoo that's at the center of his case. His lawyer, Lynette Tobin, she swore in a statement that this one single tattoo was the only reason they gave for accusing him of being in a gang.
It's pretty crazy to think one tattoo could have such huge consequences.
Yeah, the stakes are incredibly high.
And it's not even a scary gang tattoo, right? They described it as a crown on top of a soccer ball with a rosary and the word Dios, which means God in Spanish. Apparently, he got it to look like the logo of his favorite team, Real Madrid.
You can see how someone who's not into soccer or, doesn't get the religious symbols could totally misinterpret it.
Totally. It just shows how you can't just jump to conclusions based on appearances, especially without knowing the cultural context or doing a proper investigation.
Absolutely. It's a cautionary tale about assumptions and biases. But then you've got the Department of Homeland Security and Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin. They're saying something different entirely.
Yeah, what's their take?
They're sticking to the story that Barrios was here illegally, even with that CBP-1 app thing, and that his tattoos match what they see with Aragua members.
Okay, so they're not backing down on that. And it's not just the tattoo they're using against him, right?
Right. McLaughlin also said they think his social media stuff points to him being in the gang. So they're building this whole case on how they're reading his tattoo and what he's doing online.
It's kind of scary how much power they're giving to social media, anyone can misinterpret a post or a picture, especially when you think about slang and inside jokes and stuff that's specific to certain groups.
Absolutely. It raises a whole bunch of questions about how accurate and fair these judgments are, especially when you're talking about someone's freedom and their whole future.
Exactly. It makes you wonder how much they're actually understanding versus just assuming based on surface level stuff.
Right. Are they really getting the full picture?
And then you've got people like Brian Kilmeade from Fox News, American Wire News reported on this. He's basically saying he doesn't buy Barrios' story, that he's innocent.
Yeah, what was his reasoning?
Well, he said being a pro athlete doesn't mean you can't be a criminal, which I guess is technically true, but doesn't really prove anything specific about Barrios.
Right, it's a pretty general statement.
Yeah, and he also kind of implied that with so many immigration cases, maybe they shouldn't have to give every suspected gang member the full due process treatment.
Wow, so he's basically prioritizing efficiency over individual rights.
It sounds like it. And, it makes you think there's this huge tension between needing to process all these cases quickly and also making sure everyone gets a fair chance to defend themselves, especially when the whole thing started because someone misinterpreted a tattoo.
Yeah, that's a tough balance to strike, for sure.
It is. But let's move on to the other case. Andres Cedeno Gil, the makeup artist.
Yeah, his story's got some interesting parallels. His supporters describe him as this gay makeup artist who was seeking asylum. And, once again, tattoos are a big part of why he got in trouble.
But his lawyer, Lindsay Tochlowski, says his tattoos are totally different. She called them benign, like snakes and flowers, nothing that screams gang member.
You'd think those wouldn't raise any red flags.
Right. But get this, Tochlowski claims ICE actually used photos of these benign tattoos as proof he was part of Nicaragua. It just doesn't make sense on the surface.
It's mind-boggling. It really makes you question how much they understand about tattoos and how easily they can misinterpret them if they don't have the right knowledge.
For sure. And Tochlowski also said something pretty disturbing. She said they had evidence proving Cedeno Gil was innocent, but because he got deported so fast, they never got a chance to show it.
That's really troubling. It suggests he was denied due process, like he wasn't given a fair chance to defend himself.
Exactly. And the DHS, speaking through Assistant Secretary McLaughlin again, they're pushing back on the idea that it was all about the tattoos.
So what are they saying?
Well, they're saying Cedeno Gil's social media posts show he's involved with Nicaragua. They keep bringing up these intelligence assessments that go beyond just looking at tattoos.
So for both these guys, DHS is pointing to social media as further evidence, but they never really say what exactly they saw online that was so incriminating.
It's really frustrating, both for us trying to understand this and, more importantly, for the guys themselves who are left wondering what exactly they're being accused of.
That lack of transparency is a major concern. It makes it hard to assess the strength of their case and raises serious questions about how these decisions are being made.
Absolutely. So now both Barrios and Cedeno Gil have been sent back to El Salvador, to this maximum security prison called CCOT. And this was all done under the Trump administration using this really old law, the Alien Enemies Act of 1798.
Oh, wow, 1798, that's going way back.
Yeah, what's the deal with that law?
So that law was passed ages ago, mainly to let the government detain and deport people from enemy countries during wartime. Using it for asylum seekers, especially people who aren't from an official enemy country, is a really unusual and some might say controversial way to use it.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a stretch. And CCOT, the prison they were sent to, it's known for being super strict, maximum security, the whole 9 yards. It makes you really worried about what they're going through there, especially if they're actually innocent.
It's a bleak situation, no doubt. And this move has sparked some strong reactions. American Wire News reported that a lot of critics, mainly from the left, are saying this is a human rights violation, especially if these guys are innocent. They're being sent to this harsh prison without a fair chance to prove their case.
That's a heavy accusation.
It is. But then you've got sources like townhall.com more on the right. They're saying deporting them was totally necessary for national security. They're all about tough immigration rules and getting rid of anyone they see as a threat, even if they're asking for asylum.
It's such a stark contrast in viewpoints.
Absolutely. It boils down to how much you prioritize national security versus individual rights and the possibility that the system could be making mistakes.
And that's what makes this whole case so complex. You've got these allegations based on what seems like a misreading of tattoos, but then DHS says they've got other intel from social media, and in the middle of it all, you have these two guys facing a really uncertain future in a tough prison.
It really makes you think about how much weight we should give to tattoos and social media when it comes to deciding someone's fate, especially with these fast-track deportations where there's less time for a thorough review.
So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with this thought. How much should tattoos and social media really matter when we're talking about someone's right to seek asylum? What are the implications for basic fairness and human rights when these things become the main evidence?
It's a crucial question to grapple with. It highlights just how complicated and potentially flawed this system can be, especially with the pressure to process tons of cases and keep the country safe. We encourage you to keep digging into this issue, keep learning, and always remember the human side of these debates about immigration.
There are real people with real lives at stake in all of this. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.